Today, I am going to relate to you a very sad story, a story of hatred, a story of abuse, and a story of unnecessary violence. Last year, I made a video about the Wuxin KG935G. I wanted to see how tough it was. I wanted to see how far I could push it, and I beat the living shit out of this radio. And this radio, although horribly scarred for life on both the outside and the inside, it still works today. And after that video, many people wanted to know if the Baofeng UV-5R, which all of the experts tell us is nothing more than cheap Chinese junk, everybody wanted to know if it was as tough as that Wuxin ocean radio. So in this video, I will answer the age-old question: how tough is a Baofeng UV-5R? Now, as many of you know, the Baofeng UV-5R is a ham radio. And as of many of you also know, I do not have a ham radio operator's license, which means the FCC has not given me the permission to press this push-to-talk button like this. Don't worry, it's not turned on, so all of you sad hams can step away from the keyboard. But because if I was to press that button while it was turned on and actually transmit, which I will have to do throughout this video to confirm if the radio is working or not, we all know that the FCC wouldn't care, but every sad ham on the internet would suddenly feel a disturbance in the force, and they would all descend upon this video, leaving comments and fairy tales about how I would go to jail or get a $10,000 fine for pushing that button without a license. So because I do not feel like deleting 1,000 stupid comments, I will be using the GMRS version of the UV5R. But for all intensive purposes, this is a UV5R. The only difference is the programming on the inside is for GMRS and not for ham. Otherwise, it is identical to a Baofeng UV5R. So let's get started. As you can see, this radio does work. Oh, she's talking. She's telling me that I don't have to do this. She says she loved me long time. But as you can see, it does work. It is in perfect functioning condition. And as you can see, I am able to very rudely kerchunk one of my favorite repeaters 30 miles away. That was the Roger beep from that repeater. So as you can see, for now at least, this radio does work. So let's get started with the abuse. Don't worry, babe. If you love me, you'll let me do this. So the first thing I am going to do is transmit with no antenna for 60 seconds, which is far longer than all the experts say is required to permanently damage this radio. So I'm going to make sure that it is on high power, as indicated by the high power menu item. I have removed the antenna, and I will now press the push-to-talk button with no antenna connected, and we will see if the radio survives. As you can see, the radio is transmitting, as indicated by the red LED and by the transmitting indicator on the screen. If you've ever read any online forums about GMRS ham radio or CB, you have no doubt read all of the experts telling us that if we do what I am doing now, the radio will explode in your hands, catch on fire, and consume itself. Coming up on 45 seconds, it has not yet bursted into flames, and it does appear to still be transmitting. So we've gone for over 1 minute and 5 seconds. As you can see, the radio is still functioning. Let's put the antenna back on and see if we can still hit that favorite repeater when I rudely kerchunk it. That beep indicates that this radio is still hitting that repeater 30 miles away, over 1 minute, with no antenna, and it has still survived. The next thing I did was submerge her in water, the kind of water that this type of radios are used to, for 30 minutes. And even though the UV5R has no IP rating, meaning it is not waterproof. She did survive and mostly still worked. To get her to work, I had to replace the battery with a dry one. She would then turn on, but it was clear that she was not quite feeling herself. Next, I froze the radio for 2 hours while she was still wet. And after the big freeze, she would not turn on. But after letting her sunbathe in the hot California sun for a little while, she did turn back on, but only with a dry battery. The battery that went swimming does not appear to have survived. Next, I dropped the radio from waist height. And using the new battery, she still worked just like she did before I dropped her. I then ran her over with my Jeep. And this tragic accident is what pretty much ended my relationship with this once beautiful radio. And as you can see, not only is she ugly now, but she also has major brain damage. She never was really herself after the drowning incident, but she still kind of worked. But now I'm calling it, this radio no longer functions as a radio. It does not transmit, it does not receive. I cannot see anything on the screen. And she's doing weird things. So was this $30 Baofeng as tough as the Wuxin Ocean that cost over $100 more? No, not even close, but she did put up a good fight. Please leave your condolences in the comment section below.